Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, guys. Ooh, 7 people already. All right, who was first? No response. What's going on? First, Mr. Omar. Mr. Omar, congratulations, brother. Salaam, guys. How are you? Omar, you get a. I'll send you $5. I'm not CIA. This is my my cool glasses. I gotta bring out my nerd glasses. Let me take this off. I gotta show you my nerd glasses. See, this is my cool. I'm the cool guy right now. But then I gotta put my nerd glasses on so I can talk to you guys. Hold on. Much better. It's super sunny out here, so you gotta wear protection. All right. I know I'm trying to find a decent spot to talk to you guys. Inshallah, the quarantine thing is releasing. It's getting better. And inshallah, with that, I'll be able to, let me see if I can stand you up. With that, inshallah, I'll be able to have more time at home to be able to be with my computer and reference Quranic verses more thoroughly, inshallah. So for now though, this is going to be the situation. I'm sorry, you guys are going to have to tolerate me holding this camera while I talk to you, this shaky camera, and I'll be in the park though. Okay, all right. Okay, guys. So who is a CIA agent? I think he was referring to me because of the hat and the glasses. So how are you guys? Inshallah, you guys are doing well. I'm curious, name the country that you're from, or that you live in, I should say. Can you guys hear me? Salaam, Noah. USA, Italy. Ciao. That's all I know in Italian. Algeria, Turkey. Nasalsen. See, I like to know. See, I don't know any Ethiopian. I'm always curious which country you're from so that I can say something from your country. Anything that I know. Iraqi, Kurdistan, ahla sahla. Very good, guys. Again, Earth? That's not a country, bro. Sweden. Oh, hey, Mr. Paco. So some of you are, I've interacted with in various comments or emails. I don't know anything about Algeria. Besides, it's in North Africa. I'm a geographer, so I should know where it is. Oh, I'm sorry, you're from the US? I'm sorry. Jordan. Ahla sahla. Ahleen Firas. Shout out to Firas. I don't know anything about Bangladesh. Besides, it's in South Asia. Anyway, so what's today's topic? Um, well, let me tell you guys that inshallah, and perhaps, like I said, the quarantine is gradually being removed, and so things are going to go back to normal. People are going to go to work. My kids will start going to school. Well, I don't know about school, but there will be more time for me to be at home where I can have my phone and then my computer, and then we can really start, you know, it's easier for me to reference Quranic verses while I have a Quran in front of me, okay? So in these sessions, it's just really from memory as best as I can. So inshallah, that's the plan in the next coming weeks, inshallah. For now, I usually like to have these sessions just as a free time with me and you guys, and I would like to speak of a couple of things until the coronavirus comes back. That's right. I'd like to speak with you guys as a follow-up to the video I posted about obeying the messenger. And as you know, it's in the Arabic language, and I really wanted to, because I'm getting a lot of requests to do a lot of requests in Arabic, and I thought that it's best to start with the basics, not to undermine the Arab world, not to undermine those who speak Arabic or anything like that, but because obviously in the Middle East, it's a really different ball game. We grew up with certain ideologies, and a lot of times it's very difficult to convey a message just like that, all of a sudden, Al-Quran alone, but rather I prefer doing it more in a gradual method, in the sense that you gradually depart to them certain topics, certain aspects of the idea of following Quran alone, and of course the whole notion of what it means to follow the messenger, to obey the messenger. So I want to follow up with that, because I do plan, inshallah, going to releasing a few more videos about this whole idea of what it means to obey the messenger. I'm debating if it should be in Arabic still. I think it should. And I might provide subtitles, but subtitles, it's a lot of work. So I might just do one video in Arabic, one video in English. But anyway, I want to follow up regarding, how do I pronounce your name? Via, okay, let me see. But following the Quran alone is illegal in many Muslim countries. Some people have been executed because of this. Absolutely true. It's absolutely true. But guess what? I mean, for me, what I'm seeing nowadays, in the Arab world is that the seed has been planted, and is being planted, in the sense that there are scholars, and there are actually people, just regular people, not necessarily scholars by title, but rather people that study the Quran, Arabs that are studying the Quran and have a more Quran-centric approach. Not necessarily Quran alone, but Quran-centric approach. That is, some of them, there are some Quran alone followers, but there are Quran-centric folks who say, yeah, the Quran is clear, fully detailed, all that stuff, and we're going to reject every single hadith that contradicts the Quran, but we might take heed to some hadiths that agree with the Quran. And to me, I mean, it's Quran alone no matter what, but this is actually a step forward, okay? Because back then, I don't know how long ago, but people just took every single hadith to heart. Whether it agreed or contradicted the Quran, it's the Prophet said it, the Prophet did it, and that's it. Now, people are starting to question, which is a really good thing, in my opinion, especially like I said, in the Arab world. So that's one thing about the Arab world, and I think it's exactly, Jaden. It's like a new awakening. So people are starting to wake up to the notion of Quran alone, Quran-centric approach. It's a healthy step forward. Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to talk about. Okay, the first thing, like I said, is about obey the messenger. The video I posted about obeying the messenger. And the other thing I want to talk about, Paco, are you still there? You and I had a discussion regarding the whole concept of marriage. Okay, so let's start off with obeying the messenger. What I find interesting here is that since posting my video about obeying the messenger, I got a lot of positive responses from Arabs. Okay, a lot of positive responses. And then again, on the other end, we got a lot of negative responses, or I should say more questions. Okay, one question that is often repeated by people is that, okay, so if you are saying that we are obeying the messenger means we are obeying the message, i.e. the Quran, then are you saying that if the messenger were alive today in front of you and he said, do this or that, are you going to ask him and question him whether his command was regarding the Quran or not? So this is a common question that I'm seeing on and on by especially other Arabs or people, traditional Muslims basically, who will insist that, dude, your idea of obey the messenger is completely wrong, because if the messenger were alive today and he told you to do something, you are required to do it, because and you're not supposed to ask whether it's from the Quran or not. And I remember I had a discussion with one fella yesterday who said, suppose the messenger came up to you and said that having a pet dog is haram. Are you going to say if this is from the Quran or not? So my response to him was, if it is a command, then it would be in the Quran. If it is a divine command, it would be in the Quran. As simple as that. You see, here's the thing about traditional Muslims. When they bring up an argument like this, they tend to not see, or maybe cover their eyes, in reference to the fact that the Prophet himself, from the Quran, interacted and behaved. Everything that happened during his personal life that is pertinent to our salvation is mentioned in the Quran. Okay, this is really an important concept to grasp. We can look in the Quran and see the quote-unquote the Sunnah of the Prophet, what he did, how he interacted with people, and if whatever he did in his personal life is pertinent to our salvation, then it would be mentioned in the Quran. For example, verses that say, yas'alunaka, they ask you, Muhammad. Okay, they ask you about alcohol, intoxicants. They ask you about menstruation. They and all these verses that talk about they ask you. Then God issues a command to Muhammad, and says to them, "Qul," say, respond, say this. So this is absolute evidence that anything that the Prophet during his life issued to the people that is relevant to our salvation is in the Quran. As simple as that. And so when people come up with this argument that, oh, so if the Prophet were in front of you and told you pet dogs are not allowed, well, if it is a command, a divine commandment, it would be in the Quran. It would be part of the revelation, because people at that time would sit with the Prophet, They ask you about alcohol. Say, in them is sin, blah, blah, blah. So this is how the Prophet responded. And we can all see, even in other verses of the Quran, like Surah Al-Mujadala, which is a debate or a discussion between the Prophet and a woman about her husband. Okay, you guys quote the surah for me, please, if you know what I'm talking about. The surah that talks about how a woman was talking to the Prophet about her husband. And the Quran mentions that story, okay? And it touches on the pertinent things that need to be addressed that could be a salvation, that is a salvation for us, okay? Surah 33 is riddled with events and things that happened during the lifetime of the Prophet. And those things are pertinent also to us as well. So, of course, during the lifetime when the Prophet was alive, yes, he's a prophet. He's full of wisdom. People sought wisdom from him and advice from him and stuff like that. Anything that the Prophet said that was, again, relevant to our salvation would be recorded in the Quran. And of course, he did issue a lot of wisdom and a lot of commandments back then, but if it's not pertinent to the salvation of the people, but only pertinent to a situation or circumstance during his life, then it's not recorded in the Quran. It's really, really that simple. So I just wanted to depart this. And of course, and I'm gonna mention this in my video, my next videos about obeying the messenger. And of course, there are other verses that traditional Muslims will quote in order to attempt to show that, hey, this verse means we are to follow the Sunnah of the messenger and so forth, which is all wrong, of course. Every verse that they quoted in an attempt to show that we are supposed to follow the Sunnah or outside sources of the Quran, out of context and makes almost absolutely zero sense in that sense. And there's a discussion that I was having with another gentleman about how he insists that we are supposed to obey Muhammad. And I tell him the Quran does not say obey Muhammad. The Quran does not say obey Al-Nabi. The Quran says obey Al-Rasul. And they go, oh, it's the same thing. Sorry, that is your problem. That is a problem that you have, and you're insisting to be okay with that, which is very problematic. Allah says, أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول, obey the messenger. He does not say obey Muhammad or obey Al-Nabi. And having the inability to distinguish between these is problematic. Yes, it is the same person. Muhammad is a messenger and a prophet. But the words Rasul and Nabi are not exchangeable in the sense that it's the same thing. Because the Quran at some times uses the word Nabi, and at other times it uses the word Rasul. Okay, so we need to be able to understand why is God saying Rasul here, and why is he saying Nabi here. And what's interesting, when I was in the submitters group, okay, part of the Rashad Khalifa group, who believed that Rashad was a messenger from God, and when there was a clear error that he made in his work, people say, oh, he's a human being, he'll make mistakes. Sure, but a messenger does not make mistakes. A messenger from God does not make mistakes. A prophet can make mistakes, okay? Muhammad can make a mistake. Muhammad al-Nabi, the prophet, can make a mistake. But Muhammad al-Rasul, the messenger, does not make mistakes. Why? Because we are talking about the message here. This is precisely why God says, Ati'u Allah wa Rasul. The word Rasul is tied to the message. That's why it's called Rasul. He's called Rasul here. And as far as the Rasul is concerned, it's perfect. It doesn't it has no errors. But we see in the Quran, whenever Muhammad made a mistake or God wanted to correct him, he was addressed as prophet, Nabi. Like in Surah 66 verse 1, Ya ayyuhan Nabi, lima tuharrim ma ahallallahu lak, tabtaghi mardata azwajik. Oh, you prophet, why do you prohibit what God has made lawful for you in order to please your wives? See? So whenever Muhammad, the prophet, Muhammad made a mistake, God addressed him as a prophet and never as a messenger. Okay? So these are some of the points that are on my mind that need to be addressed in formal videos. So I plan, inshallah, in the next perhaps 2 videos, I'm going to talk about the significance of finding the Sunnah, okay, the way the messenger, the prophet lived in the Quran. It's all in the Quran. Seriously, I don't understand why people say you're not gonna you don't know how the prophet lived or how he behaved or how he acted or anything like that from the Quran. Wrong. It's all there. Okay, Surah 9, Surah 33. There's a lot of passages that talk about how the prophet interacted and what he was required to say and not do and do according to the Quran. So if you're looking for, this is to the traditionalists, if you're looking for the Sunnah of the prophet that you keep talking about, it's all there. And unfortunately, people are just saying no, 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 no. You can only do so much on your end. So that's one of the videos. The other video, inshallah, I'm going to address specific verses that traditionalists often quote in order to attempt to show that we are supposed to follow the messenger in the sense of the hadiths or external sources. Okay. So in this regard, do you guys have any comments or question? I know I was ranting. I apologize. So shoot. What's super chat? I don't even know what that is. Sorry, I'm totally ignorant. Okay, so I'll look up the super chat thing. Let me see if I can find it here. I don't know what that is. Let me see if I can find something here. Oops. Yeah, I have no idea where to find the super chat thing that. Oh, super chat allows viewers to donate. Let me talk about that really quick. You guys, I appreciate some of you offering donations and whatnot. I need to emphasize something. Somebody accused me, actually a few people have accused me of trying to make money from you guys. And I have really nothing to work. I mean, I sometimes I don't even bother addressing these types of things because I don't care about it. I don't care about these types of accusations. I need to emphasize, yes, as you can see, I have commercials on my YouTube videos. I'm not taking money from you. YouTube offers to put commercials on your channel and make money. I make a little bit of money, sure. I don't have a problem with that. And people, but people are accusing me of trying to attract more people and do these things. It's really, God is the witness here. And so it's important to understand that it's not about selling anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm not offering anything. I'm not taking money from anybody. So that's how I see the whole situation. People don't like it. You don't have to watch. Okay, no offense. I really mean no offense. You don't have to watch. So let's see. Now, okay, so guys, in regards to the whole obey the messenger thing, do you guys have any comments or questions? Okay. Obey the message. Exactly. So that's the idea. You know, when God says, "Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul," the word Rasul is always tied and associated with messenger, with a message. That's why he's called Ar-Rasul, right? And people, it's amazing. Honestly, I had a discussion with a gentleman, and when I told him that there is a difference between saying messenger or prophet, he laughed. He LOL'd it, and totally just brushing it off like it doesn't matter. Sometimes I'm really shocked at the way people undermine the Quranic text, and to me, I find it quite blasphemous. But you know, sometimes people do these things in honest ignorance, and other times they just do it because they don't want to listen, they don't want to hear. And and he actually accused me of trying to go through lengths to justify the idea of following the Quran alone, which is, to me, it's nuts. It's baloney. Baloney. Remember that word? Yes. Noah, you bring a really good question. Can the Prophet have an independent opinion of a topic that did not mention in the Quran? Absolutely. This is another thing that I also see in some of the Quran alone followers. They say that the only inspiration given to the Prophet was the Quran. We have to be, I think in this case, we need to be more precise. When it comes to things that are relevant to our salvation, the only inspiration that we need is the Quran. I do see that the Prophet, any Prophet really, receives inspiration outside of the Quran, outside of the scripture that he is preaching, for matters that are pertinent to his situation and his circumstance at that time. It's not regarding the salvation for the people. Does that make sense? And I think a good example of that is, I think it's Surah 66, where the Prophet shared something with his, where the Prophet shared a secret with his wives, and he found out that they were actually with one of his wives, and his one wife shared it with the other wife, and God told him about it. And so we don't know what that secret is. We don't know the details of that. The Quran just mentioned, kind of touched on the most relevant issue and the most important issue about it. And this, to me, gives me the impression that, yeah, the Prophet, throughout his life, he received inspiration for doing certain things when he's in a battle and he's in a fight, giving maybe advice or whatever. Again, those things that happened during his life are pertinent to that time. If God wants it to be as part of the Quranic commandments and pertinent to our salvation, then it would be in the Quran. I hope that kind of makes sense, because remember, he's a prophet, so he's receiving information and news or whatever, okay? So this is how I see it, and I think that's a really good thing that we can probably talk about when I have a computer in front of me. We can address some certain verses and see that there is implications that the Prophet did receive inspiration outside of the Quran, pertinent to a situation or a circumstance that happened during his life, okay? And it's not relevant to Quranic laws or something that that is going to impact us in any way. What is the, Mr. Mustafa, what is the difference between Nabi and Rasul? Nabi are the people who are given books by God. I'm having difficulty to understand whether Moses' mother was a messenger, how God sent his message to her. Moses' mother was a messenger? Okay. All right. Mustafa, I don't know how how are you? Did you mean Jesus's mother, Mustafa? Anyway, when it comes to Moses' mother or Jesus's mother, they too received some form of inspiration, but the Quran never calls them prophets, prophetesses. But God does call, I believe, Jesus's mother, Mary, as Siddiqah. Yeah, okay, Mustafa. God calls Mary a Siddiqah, and he calls the mother of Moses as a believer. But never does he call them, you know, prophetesses or anything of that sort. What I find interesting is that being a prophet signifies, it's not exclusive to just receiving inspiration, but it signifies an elevated status. So being a prophet versus a Siddiq, for example, a truthful one, being a prophet is a higher status. And what's interesting is that when we look at Moses' mother and Jesus' mother, who received some form of inspiration, it's relevant to something that's going to happen to the prophet that they're tied with. Okay, so Moses' mother, she received inspiration as a form of divine intervention to help or aid a plan for a prophet to come. Same thing with Mary, is the same thing. So the way I see it is that they're not prophets, they're not messengers. You can receive inspiration not in the sense of like Gabriel talking to you, like with Prophet Muhammad, but rather it's an inspiration like, you know, something told you in your head to do this, okay? It could be, you could be unaware of that inspiration. But I think that'll be a good question or a good question that we can talk about. Perhaps you can post it on this under this live stream, and then we can talk about it, inshallah. But the way I see it is that they're not prophets or messengers. If they are, then what's their message? What's the scripture that they received, if any? Okay. Okay. Okay, yes. Okay, Mr. Paco, how are you, my friend? Allow me to clarify something from the live stream. I think it was the last live stream. And because I was looking through Brother Paco, he brought up a question regarding what I talked about in regards to marriage. And I need to clarify something. Perhaps it's just the way I was talking. In my last live stream, I said that it's perfectly fine. I mentioned that in my last live stream, I talked about how it's important to be open and receptive to other people of other faiths, and then I said down the line they might start believing. When I said down the line, I actually meant down the line as you're getting to know them, not down the line after marriage. I need to emphasize this, and I apologize if I gave you the wrong impression. I do. Again, this is not rehearsed, so I'm just speaking. According to the Quran, and this is a really good topic that I personally would like to cover. Thank you to Brother Paco, because I personally have never really thought of it. It's the idea that the Quran in one verse, in Surah 5, God talks about how it's okay to marry someone from a different faith, particularly Ahl-Kitab, which are the Jews and the Christians. And yet, in another verse of the Quran, God talks about do not marry idolaters until they believe, or unless they believe. So, and then, you know, here's the question is, oh, dogs are fighting. And that's the thing, sorry, the idea is, this indicates for me, okay, when God says that you can marry someone from the previous books, from the previous scripture, And then he says, do not marry idolaters until they believe. To me, this indicates, and even in the Quran, I briefly looked over some verses today about this topic. In the Quran, we see God distinguishes between Ahl al-Kitab, okay, and al-Mushrikeen, and the idolaters. Okay, Ahl al-Kitab and the idolaters. So it seems to have two distinct groups. Okay, it seems to me from the Quran that there are idolaters from Ahl al-Kitab, and there are also believers from Ahl al-Kitab. Okay, so this is, I still haven't studied this, and I really would like to. I know a lot of people are asking me about marriage, and I think this is a really important topic. What constitutes an idolater? I know in the Quran there's various ways to be called an idolater, a mushrik, but also we see in the Quran that there are from the Ahl al-Kitab people that are considered believers, people that are considered kuffar, and people that are considered mushrikeen. Okay, and the thing is that we need to keep in mind, okay, and I always apply this with any discussion that I have in regards to what constitutes a believer versus a non-believer versus what. If we go to Surah 2 verse 62, let me move here. I think there's ants biting my legs. Surah 2 verse 62, God says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَعَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Those who believe, the Jews, the Christians, the Sabians, whoever believes in God, the last day, and whoever believes in God, the last day, and leads a righteous life will receive their recompense from their Lord. They have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. This indicates for us that regardless of the title of your religion, you can still fall within these categories. And this is what really matters, or perhaps matters, as far as your salvation is concerned. But again, we see other verses that are seemingly contradicting, that talk about a believer, what a believer is considered. A believer is one who believes in God and the angels and the messengers and the books. This includes the Quran. So there needs to be some form of resolution between all of these verses. And I urge all of you guys, if any of you can contribute to this particular discussion about marriage, and especially what constitutes being able to marry an idolater versus a believer versus people from the previous books and so forth. That's important to understand. But to go back really briefly, in that previous video, again, I apologize for maybe giving you the wrong impression. When I said down the line, I meant as you're getting to know them. The idea is that if a person is of a different faith, not a Quran alone follower, okay? If they are a traditional Muslim, if they are a Christian, if they are whatever, get to know them. This is, again, my personal advice based off of my understanding from the Quran. You get to know them. Be open and receptive to that. Because if you just go, no, I need a Quran alone follower at the get-go, you might encounter problems because you're not going to find necessarily that person. What I mean is that get to know them and engage with them, you know, have discussions. And if you see that this person is being receptive, you know, hang in there, stay with them, okay? And then if you see that they're being receptive, and then finally they agree and believe in the Quran alone concept, then marriage applies, okay? I'm sorry if I confused you last time, I apologize. So, any questions, any concerns? Do you want me to dance? Do it. Hold on. One, Miss Alma, I'm sorry, the text is small. One of your videos, you have mentioned that Nisa could mean weaker society. Can you please elaborate? Are you planning to make a video on this? I don't recall ever saying Nisa is a weaker society. I don't think I ever said that. Um, Here's what I understand of the term Nisa and why God is using it for women, okay? At least Quranically speaking. The word, sorry, hold on. Now I'm gonna see what Paco said. Exactly, other righteousness is mentioned. We are accepting all the messengers as a criteria. Okay, anyway, so to address your Nisa question, the word Nisa comes from the root na, sa, wa, or na, sa, a, depending on the lexicon. The definition is ultimately the same. And it means basically nasa'a, nasa'ya, all these different forms and variations, means to push something forward or to push it back. That's why they say nasi is something is like a delay, okay? Because you're pushing it back. It's being delayed in some sense. And so, and what's interesting is that in the Quran, we see always nisa with rijal. Okay, rijal is the which refers to men as legs, movers. Okay. And what's interesting is that in the lexicons, nasa'a also refers to a vein in the leg. A vein, which is the primary mover of the leg. And so I find it interesting how the Quran is using the word nisa for women, which is like a vein, while rijal are called the leg. It's as if they are feeding, they are things that belong to each other in some sense. But I don't recall ever saying that they are the weaker society or anything of that sort. If I did, please reference the material so I can go back and check. But I don't think I ever mentioned anything of that sort. Now, there are some scholars who concluded that rijal and nisa in the Quran do not necessitate gender. Like there could be men nisa, there could be women rijal, okay? And I guess, to me, I don't agree with that, but I guess I can see their point to some extent because sometimes a woman can take on a man's assigned role, okay? That is being the mover, the breadwinner for the household, and they thus become rijal, okay? But that's a different topic that I don't want to really get into it. But yeah, this is my understanding of the term nisa. And perhaps the reason, so my understanding is that they're called nisa because they are part of the leg. They are the vein that feeds into the leg, whereas the rijal is the leg itself, okay? Yeah, that's how I pretty much understand nisa and rijal. Okay, so it's been about 45 minutes. Let's take some questions if you guys have any. James, I'm so gonna ignore you right now. Okay, this question is from Ashley. Salaam, do you have any advice to QA Muslims who have friends, family, etc. interested in mainstream Islam, who come to you for knowledge but are confused when they realize you are Quran alone? Yes. Well, I mean, not particularly advice. I would say you want to present to them both sides, obviously, right? Because they're curious about, you know, how do you, they're curious about the traditional Islam, okay? They're mostly about traditional Islam because that's what all they know. And I think it's important to point out what traditional Islam is all about, okay? It is important. You have to present both sides of the coin. However, I think it's important also not to be like, they're liars, they're this, they're idolaters, they're blah, blah, blah. If you do that, basically you're giving that energy to that person that's going to give them a bad impression about you and how you define Quran alone. Rather, to me, it's important to approach things with an attempted wisdom, as the Quran denotes for us. You know, when you talk about the system of Islam, and from a Quran alone perspective, show it to them with wisdom and compassion, and not with any form of aggression. You know, because I used to do that a lot. Like, yeah, dude, don't listen to the traditional Muslims. They're just, you know, idiots, and they don't know what they're talking about, and blah 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 blah. I think it's important to present it more in a more gradual and respectful manner, and let them know that you don't follow the mainstream traditional ideology, but rather you adhere to the scripture alone. Okay, and you can let them know that traditional Muslims adhere to traditions, things that are not found in the scripture. You know, kind of like that. That's how, at least how I do it when I talk about this. Okay. What is that on my wrist? Very important question. Yeah, absolutely. This is protection. This is basically just pepper spray, because sometimes there are a lot of loose, aggressive dogs out there. And I do a lot of walking. I like to hike a lot. And so I make sure that I'm well protected. Thank you for your concerns. Happy Eid to whoever celebrates it at this time. Absolutely. Row low. Yeah, this is a very interesting question. What is the difference between AlKhattab, al-Dhikr, and I'm sorry, I know you're happy right now, but I haven't researched this. I haven't researched this, but I can refer you to a gentleman who recently passed away. He's an Arab who is a Quran alone follower. And his name is Muhammad Shahrur. I don't know if you speak Arabic, but this guy did quite an elaborate analysis on the difference between using the term Al-Kitab, Al-Dhikr, Al-Furqan, all these things that are mentioned in the Quran. Okay, Rolo, that's where you got the idea? Okay, so he did quite an elaborate study on it. I personally have not done the homework there, but inshallah, I'll definitely be looking into it. I do think there may be some significance as far as, you know, there's some verses in the Quran that talk about how God says Al-Kitab and then he says Al-Quran in the same sentence. And why does he say Al-Kitab, Al-Quran? رسول من الله يتلو صحفا مطهرة فيها كتب قيمة. Okay, so God says that the messenger recites the suhuf, paper, pieces of paper that are mutahhara. In those pieces of paper are kutuban, all right, books, you know. So there's things, of course, kutuban doesn't necessitate a book, but the idea is that there is some implication that kitab seems to be more of a specific thing rather than a general thing that we perceive as. And Al-Furqan and all these things. I have some friends who have actually done some research on that. So absolutely, this will be a good topic to cover in the future, inshallah. For me, I'm not interested at this time about it, but I'm more interested about Hajj, about Ramadan, about the marriage, about Obey the Messenger, these types of things. So can I marry a mushrik? No. You cannot marry a mushrik. If you want to adhere to the Quran. Okay, so 49 minutes. Let's do this for an hour, inshallah. And then I'm gonna go for a walk. Okay, the comment thing is like so fast. I can only see 2 boxes at a time. So forgive me, guys. Do you agree that Quran mentions 2 rakat salah? No. I don't see, I mean, people have gone, I've been in the boat of where people have, you know, tried to conclude a ritualized, structured type of salah from the Quran, and really the intent here is to try to apply the salah without having any previous knowledge of what it is. And somehow people magically create 2 rak'at. Some have said it's 1 rak'ah and 1 sajda, or 1 rak'ah and 2 sajdas, right? From Surah 17. And so people can come up with all sorts of ways to create a structure, but in reality, if God wanted to provide a structure, he simply could have done so. And I gave the example of the wudu. The wudu is structured. You know, God gave it to us, not as a ritual, but more of to actually be clean. So when it comes to the salah, the idea of a ritual, it doesn't exist in the Quran. It exists in the traditions. And not to say that you can do it if you want traditionally. That's my, I don't see a problem with a person doing a ritual salah, as long as they know it's not from God, it's just a tradition. And it really, if a person feels that this provides structure for them in life, and it helps them adhere to something and remember God at certain times, and people feel better that way, absolutely, you know, the idea is to remember God. Okay. How does one recite Quran during Fajr if one does not speak Arabic? It's witnessed. There is no requirement that you need to read Arabic, especially if you don't understand Arabic. Don't read it or listen to it in Arabic. You're not going to understand anything. The point is that you basically to absorb what God is saying to you. You know, this is the words of God, and He's speaking to you. So if He's speaking to you in a language you don't understand, technically He's not speaking to you. So, I mean, you want to read and or listen to Quran in your language, okay? There's no point of listening to it or reading it in a different language. Okay, let's see, so many questions. Okay, guys, slow down. All right. Bear with me, guys, sorry. Okay. So, someone here asked about polygamy. How to marry 2, 3, or 4. You can marry up to 4 wives if you can take care of them, but don't go beyond your means. True. The impression that I get from the verse that speaks of the polygamy, it's not for pleasure. Trust me, you don't want to marry more than one. You don't want to marry more than one. But the impression that I get from the Quranic verses that talk about the polygamy is in reference ultimately to taking care of the orphans. As we know, especially back then, a lot of men fought in wars, they died, and they left orphans. And so the intent of the Quranic verse that talks about polygamy, it's more about ensuring that you're taking care of the orphans. And one way to do that was to actually marry the mother of the orphans, just so that she can have a place of security. Especially back then, that was because, you know, if you're an orphan, if you're a widow and you have orphans, it's going to be problematic for societies at that time. Yeah. Wailul Mizan. Yes. Salam Abdul. Yes. So what he is saying, polygamy is not for lustful reasons, only for just reasons. Absolutely. Circumcision. I think, brother, the British Muslim. Sorry, that was a bad accent. The British Muslim made a video about it recently. I haven't listened to it, so I don't know what he concludes or whatever. But circumcision, I don't see that it's haram. I don't think it's even correct to use the word haram. But is there a verse that you guys can think of that implies circumcision is haram? Allah said He made us perfect. Yes. But here's the thing. Is ear piercing haram? Is cutting your hair and your nails haram? You see, here's the thing. We need to... Circumcision is a Jewish tradition. Okay? Please quote Surah 4, verse 119, Paco. I don't have my Quran with me. So I wonder, for me, it's like I don't see that it's haram. I got something in my eye. I don't see that it's haram, but I'm always open to reading, listening and reading about it. Absolutely, but I haven't studied the topic because I'm not worried about it. You know, if a person circumcises someone else, it's happened and it's done with. But I know in some cultures they do it torturally, in a torturous way. So I think maybe we can look into it and see if the Quran in any way implies that circumcision is haram in any way. Can anybody reference a verse that talks about circumcision, or they concluded from that verse? Okay, Mr. Paco quoted it in Arabic. So this is where the devil promises that he will change the creation of God. And the context seems to be more geared towards cattle. I find this verse very interesting. I personally never understood what it really refers to when the devil said, I'm going to change the creation. What does that really mean? Does it mean circumcision? Especially that the context seems to be talking more about cattle, which probably has more of a historical reference. Okay, here, he put it in English. I will misguide them and make them desire, and I will command them so that they will mark the ears of the livestock. And I'll command them so they will make change to God's creation. Yeah. So thank you, Brother Paco, for quoting that verse. You know, some people can refer that and say this refers to changing the creation of God, in the sense of piercings, tattoos, circumcision, I don't know, cutting hair. I mean, you can really expound upon that however you please. I think someone right now has mentioned transgenderism, which is very plausible. I do think that it's important to see what this really refers to. Does it also refer to, for example, how, believe it or not, nowadays, people can choose the gender of their child in the belly. People can choose the hair color and the eye color and the skin color of the child in the belly. Before being born, you can do that. Is that considered what the verse is talking about? So I think it's important to kind of look into this. Right. Sorry, I'm just looking through the comments. Okay. So this is a very good topic, and I think it's a very, I think it would be a very good thing to look into. I don't know what brother British Muslim refers to, but shout out to him. I like his stuff. It's very, basic, and it addresses the very basic principles of Islam, which is excellent. So yeah, we can definitely do that. Okay, we can definitely look into it, and I'll listen to his video about it. So yeah, and really, does circumcision account for changing the creation of God? And although people will tell you, it's not clean, it's you have to, it's a lot of maintenance, blah blah blah. Now, female genital mutilation is a different topic. It's a different concept. You're actually removing part of the urethra, which is different. It's like cutting your penis off, which is not what happens during a circumcision. Okay. So guys, we're at 62 minutes. Should we keep going for a couple more minutes and then, or should I leave now? Should I? Okay, I'll leave. Yes, of course. Leave. Okay, let me see here. Mary 2304 has extra alif. This is. Something that just came to mind right now. Nothing to do with any of your questions. I don't care about your questions right now. There seems to be an interesting thing that happens in the Quran in regards to the way words are spelled. Okay? The way words are spelled. And like, for example, the word Salah. We say in Arabic, at least in the Middle East, okay, we say Salah with an alif sound, even though it's written with a waw, okay? So it's technically salut. That's the way it, when you read it, that's the way it should be pronounced. But because there's a dagger alif on top, we just say Salah. What's interesting is this is considerably perhaps a unique spelling, just like the word zakah, which is also with a waw. The word najah is also with a waw in the Quran. And what I also find interesting is that there is something about the way Quranic words are written that may have a significance to the way it should be understood. For example, look up the word Ibrahim in Surah 2. In Surah 2, the word Ibrahim has no ya. It's Ibrahim, just like in the Bible. Okay, Bible people who are knowledgeable of the Bible. As far as I know, some part of the Bible calls him Abram. Okay, and in Surah 2 of the Quran, his name is written without a ya, so it's Ibrahim. But in the rest of the Quran, it's written with a ya, Ibrahim, which is an interesting thing to which is an interesting thing to see. We also see, like, for example, the word du'afa in the Quran. Du'afa means the weak ones. And I think it occurs 4 times through the Quran. In 2 of those occurrences, it occurs with the waw, du'afwa, with a wa, okay? And the other one is without the waw, it's with an alif, du'afa. What's interesting is that the one with the waw, with a waw, du'afwa, is for the people of the hereafter, in the hellfire. Whereas du'afa with an alif is for the people of this world. So there seems to be a significance in the way the words are written, perhaps, in the Quran. So that's just an observation that is quite interesting in my view. Okay, bro, VIIIA. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Abraham's name was changed when he made a covenant with God in the Torah. So, yes, which is interesting, right? The Quran doesn't say anything of that sort, but it's interesting to see in Surah 2, he's called Abraham, and not Ibrahim. So, yeah, and was Jacob Israel in the Quran. Okay, I love these random talks. And inshallah, next time, not next time necessarily, but in a couple of weeks or so, once I have a manageable schedule, I'll be able to be at my computer, and then we can have an in-depth Quran study of various topics in the Quran, inshallah. Brother, is cooked blood haram? What about pig fat? Delish. I like me a blood soup with pig fat inside of it. Absolutely delicious. My understanding from, I believe it's Surah 5, verse 5? Verse 5? Verse 5, okay. So when God says in the Quran, He specifies the type of blood that is haram. He says, daman masfuhan. Masfuhan means a thing that runs. Okay, it's running type of blood. Okay, masfuhan, something that spills and it can roll like water. You know, when you spill water and it kind of like it spills all over the ground and it moves. That's the type of blood that is considered haram. And so, I'm not sure if, oh, you said cooked blood. So if the blood is perhaps trapped in some type of meat, I don't consider it as a running blood. It's the actual blood that comes out of the veins of the animal. Some cultures drink blood. They have blood soup. They have blood sausage. Things that have actual blood inside of it. And so that's the blood that is considered haram. But yeah, so that also applies to cooked blood, you know, because it's blood. It's the daman masfuhan. As for the pig, God says lahm al-khinzir, meat of the pig, lahm al-khinzir. So it's very specific. It's the meat of the pig. It's the flesh that is considered haram. So pig fat is perfectly fine. It's different than the actual. Actually, there's another verse. Please quote the verse if you guys know which one I'm talking about, where God actually differentiates between meat and fat. Where he talked about the haram foods, and in the next verse he says, and for the Jews we prohibited animals that have the shuhumahuma, the fat on their bodies. That was considered haram. Okay, so the fat on their backs, sorry, that's considered haram. So God differentiates between lahm and shahim. Lahm is the meat. Shahim is fat. God specifically says lahm al-khinzir, meat of the pig. Okay? Fat mixed with bone. Yeah, that's in the Quran. Again, if I have my Quran with me, I can reference it. Sorry, guys. And now there's also this other part of the debate about is God really talking about meat of pigs, or is God talking about a condition of the meat called khinzir? Okay, because when we look up the word khanzara in the lexicons, it means something that is rotten. Okay, rotten. So basically, they're saying that God isn't talking about a pig here. God is talking about rotten meat, or a type of bad meat. Okay, so he's saying lahm al khinzir, meat that is spoiled, meat that is bad, or something like that. And I can see that point, but perhaps it's my a background in Arabic. But when I read lahm of the khinzir, it indicates an animal, because he says of the khinzir, al-khinzir. If God would have said lahm khinzir, meat khinzir, then that would indicate a spoiled meat, in my opinion. But again, it could be my background in Arabic, because the way I'm reading it, it sounds like it's an animal. Okay, but there may be some validity to the idea that khinzir isn't about a pig, it's about a condition of the meat. Okay. Zahir, you're saying British Muslim is the worst? You can go away, bro. Okay, let's see. Al-Khinzir is referring to a specific pig. That's my point. When God says Al-Khinzir, lahm, Al-Khinzir, meat of the Khinzir, it seems to indicate it's of the type of animal. It's not. In Arabic, if God is, at least again to my background knowledge, if God is referring to a specific type of meat, just the meat, he would say lahm khinzir. Okay, he wouldn't say al khinzir. Okay, so that's the way I'm understanding it, based off of how I perceive. And what's interesting is that in the Quran, you know, God talks about khinzir becoming apes and pigs, or yeah, apes and pigs, right, guys? Yeah. قِرَطَةً وَخَنَازِيرٌ. Okay. It's interesting to note that when we look up the roots of both of these terms, we get the impression that God isn't referring to animals necessarily, but rather conditions of humans. Okay. I forgot what qirada actually means. I have to look it up, inshallah. But khinzir, again, spoiled, bad, putrid type of thing. So maybe God is referring to a condition of the people that are considered putrid and not necessarily an animal. Okay, it looks like you guys are having a side discussions. Okay, so I don't know what you guys are talking about here. Seconding, there's some type of vote you guys are doing? Okay, anyway, so I think I've been on here long enough. And inshallah, I have a few things that inshallah, in the next coming videos, I'm going to delve into the topic of marriage. With that, I'm going to talk about the difference between what it signifies, kufr, shirk, and belief, or iman, I should say. I'm also going to talk about the scientific miracles of the Quran. These are all on my to-do list, you know. And then the whole thing with obey God and the messenger, I'm going to cover that in the next couple of weeks, inshallah, especially for the Arab brothers and sisters out there. Are you guys okay with me doing subtitles for my Arabic videos, or do you prefer that I do an English-speaking video of the same content? Missouri. AD from Missouri. Misery. I'm just kidding. Subtitles are good. Both are fine. All right. I'm English, so naturally I prefer English. What kind of English? English or American English? Sorry, American English. I don't speak English, I speak American. That was the common thing. I have Canadian cousins. When they come, they have that a different accent. And she's like, oh, you Americans? I'm like, no, we're Americans. We're not Americans, we're Americans. Okay. So I'm seeing mixed messages. You guys, some of you are okay with subtitles, some are not. You know, making those videos, making those types of videos, believe it or not, it takes me like 20 takes to be able to do these types of videos, because I tried to be as short to the point, but then ensuring that it's clear. So it takes some time. So inshallah, I think I'll just play it by situation. You know, if I still have energy for another take in English, then I'll do it in English, inshallah. But my Arabic videos are not going to be that much, I think, because everybody should speak English, American English, American English. So I think, yeah, inshallah, I'll do the videos in Arabic, and I'll try to do them in English, but they're not going to be a lot anyway, inshallah. So, you guys, take care. God bless you. I've been holding this thing in my arm for 77 minutes. I'm getting quite a workout. And thank you guys so much for being here. I love you all. You guys are amazing. And inshallah, you know, I'll be doing this more often. Perhaps every other formal video, I'll be doing this, inshallah. And I'll give you a 30-minute head start, letting you know I'm on my way to make a live stream, inshallah. All right, guys, take care. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.